Hi everyone, good day. I am Cindy Pulayagan, and for this session, we will be talking a lot about the characteristics of learners with intellectual disability. So without further ado, we will start. These are the following characteristics of learners with intellectual disability according to Howard et al. 2017. And I will not going to introduce you further or give you an example scenario or give you the definition of what is an intellectual disability, because I do believe that it is already been discussed by the previous reporters. So number one characteristics is cognitive functioning. Number two is the adaptive behavior. Number three is the behavioral excesses and challenging behavior. And the number four, the positive attribute. So letter A, the cognitive functioning. Let us start with learning rate. The children with intellectual disability acquire new knowledge at rate well below that of typically developing children. So from the word itself, learning rate. Because there are some children that, especially those children na disabled talaga intellectually, they tend to learn or they tend to cope slowly. So in that way, us as a future educator, we need to think of a way kung saan makaka-catch up sila. So in that way, we tend to teach slowly para in that way makaka-catch up sila doon sa itinuturo natin. Kasi when it comes in their learning rate, ang mga bata kasi that are intellectually disabled, medyo nahihirapan sila na mag-acquire ng new knowledge. So in that way, kailangan natin mag-teach slowly for them to acquire and for them to cope with the new learnings or new knowledge. So number two is the memory. They have difficulty remembering information, especially those with more severe impairment. Kaya nga sinabi dito na learning rate, kailangan nating babaan or kailangan nating slow down yung pagtuturo natin, kasi ang mga bata daw na intellectually disabled, they have difficulty remembering information. Kumbaga pa but they have shorter memory. Madali silang makalimot ng mga informations, lalo kapag mga bago or new knowledge or newly acquired knowledge yung mga ibinibigay ng teachers. Especially in the case of kung bata is medyo severe or severe talaga yung impairment or yung kanilang disability in intellectual. So number three is the attention. They typically attend slower on relevant features of a learning task than students without disabilities. Best example ng learning task is remembering and acquiring new knowledge. Going back to the learning rate, na-mention ko earlier na as a teacher, kapag nakikita natin or kapag yung bata may learning disability or intellectual disability, we need to teach slowly. Kasi yung memory nila, short term lang. So kasi nga sa attention, may learning difficulty sila, especially acquiring new knowledge. Kaya dapat as a future educator, when we are teaching children who are intellectually disabled, we need to teach slowly because they have problem in attention. Mahihirapan tayong kunin yung attention nila, and them then, they are encountering difficulty acquiring new knowledge, also remembering knowledge. Kasi nga nabanggit ko kanina sa memory, they are short-term memory. Madali silang makalimot, and also mahirap din silang maka-acquire ng new knowledge. And also, mahirap din sa kanila yung generalization or generalizing skills. Next is the generalization and maintenance. They have difficulty in transferring or generalizing newly learned knowledge and skills to settings or situations that differ from conditions where they learn the skills. So, sinasabi naman dito, since nasabi kanina na the intellectually disabled children or learner have difficulty acquiring and remembering things, dito naman, in line with that, nahihirapan din silang i-transfer yung knowledge na na-acquire nila. Kasi nga, nasabi doon na nahihirapan silang i-acquire yung knowledge. That's why we need to teach slowly for them to fully acquire the knowledge. Since may difficulty sila acquiring the knowledge, they have also the difficulty to transfer the knowledge or the skills that they just have learned. Halimbawa ako, if a normal person na trained siya to be a coach, and then they are expected to teach their co-students as part of their training, syempre I was expected to teach what I have learned from that training. Yung mga learners kasi that are intellectually disabled, they have difficulty transferring the skills or knowledge that they just have acquired. In addition to that, lalo kapag iba na yung context, like iba na yung lugar na tuturuan nila, like outside of the environment kung saan nila natutunan yung specific skills na yon, mas nahihirapan silang mag-cope doon sa new place or new environment na pupuntahan nila or kung saan nila ituturo yung skills na nag-gain nila. So next is the motivation. Some students lack interest in learning or participating in problem-solving tasks. So we have here the word helplessness. Dito naman sa motivation, they tend not to do the thing or the task again, lalo kapag nag-fail sila in the first place. Kasi nga, we have this word, helplessness. Kapag nagawa nila yung task in the first place and then nag-fail sila, they tend to not have the motivation to further do the task kasi nga nag-fail sila in the first place. So, ang mindset nila that time, ang magiging mindset nila is, nag-fail ako sa first, for sure mag-fail ako at the second time, the third time, the fourth time, and so on and so forth. So, ganun yung nagiging mindset nila. That's why sinasabi dito, lack of interest in learning or lack of interest in problem solving, just like what I have said earlier na since nag-fail na sila from the start, nung unang beses nila na-try, hindi na nila ita-try ulit kasi ang expected outcome lang naman is mag-fail lang din sila. When it comes in learning, since they have difficulty acquiring new knowledge and remembering it, magkakaroon na din ng lack of motivation and lack of interest to learn new things kasi nga, makakalimutan lang din nila agad. Or yung magkakaroon sila or they have difficulty acquiring new knowledge. Kumbaga parang may barrier, may invisible barrier na nagpipigil na i-absorb yung new learning kasi nga, they are intellectually disabled. So next, we have the self-care and daily living skills. So direct instruction and environmental supports such as added prompts and simplified routines are important in ensuring that limitations in their adaptive areas do not severely affect their quality of life. Meaning, since those intellectually children have difficulty when it comes adaptation, we can simply direct or give direct instruction for them to improve their quality of life. Halimbawa, we can simply teach them how to brush teeth, when is the best time to brush teeth, how frequent do we have to brush our teeth, or those simple tasks na ginagawa in our everyday life like pagsasaing, pagluluto, paglalaba, and so on and so forth. In that way, they can improve their quality of life. Kasi nga, those children or those person with intellectual disability also have difficulty when it comes doing tasks. Kasi walang nakaka-guide sa kanila. Walang in their self actually has difficulty when it comes doing errands, normal errands. So in that way, they need to have direct instruction. And then also environmental supports like prompts, sabi nga dito yung prompts and simplified routines. Halimbawa yung simple exercise, what are the simple exercise na pwede nilang i-perform at home so that they can have a healthy life. Kasi usually kapag ang mga tao na intellectually disabled, ang akala lang nila mabubuhay yung ganito ganyan, they do not have an idea how to do or how to take good care of their health. So in that way, to improve their quality of life, those are the mitigations or adaptations, behavioral adaptation that we can teach to them para makaroon sila ng good quality of life. Next is social relationships. Their poor communication skills, inability to recognize others' emotional state, and unusual or inappropriate behaviors can result to social isolation. So, for me, hindi naman sila mismong nag-isolate, or there are some situations that they are isolating themselves kasi nga nakikita nila na they are not normal. But as a normal people then, we tend to isolate or we tend to distance ourselves to them kasi nakikita natin sila na hindi normal. And usually, na kino-conclude na lang natin na iwasan na lang natin kasi iba siya and baka in some cases pwedeng manakit at hindi nila alam kung nakakasakit ba sila. Sabi nga dito, they are unable to recognize someone else's emotional state. Kung nasasaktan na ba sila or nasasaktan ba nila yung ibang tao. And also they have poor communication skills and also unusual or inappropriate behaviors. May mga intellectually disabled din na mga learners or mga bata or mga tao na iba yung galaw nila sa mga normal or sa mga kaedad nila or mga kasabayan nilang mga learners din or mga tao. Best example, when I was grade 11, hindi pa namin alam na ang tawag sa sakit or ang tawag sa kanya is intellectually disabled. Na-conclude ko lang siya actually ngayon based on observing her. Going back to the story, iba siya. Like, kaedad namin siya, pero iba siya maggalaw, iba siya manalita, and iba talaga siya. One time, nung naglalaro, like, kukulitan-kulitan lang kami, kasama siya. And then, bigla niyang pinalo yung isa naming kaklase. And then, to the point na sobrang sakit ng palo niya, napaiyak yung kaklase ko. And then, wala siyang ginawa that time, hindi siya nag-sorry. Parang para siyang bata na walang imik, yung ganon. So, nung kinausap ko siya, normal na pagkausap ko sa mga kaklase ko, mga ka-age ko din, hindi siya nagsasalita. Pero nung kinausap ko siya, the way I communicate with my 10-year-old brother, saka siya sumagot. Kasi sabi niya, hindi daw niya nagustuhan kasi sabi niya, yung kapatid daw niya na 10 years old, nagpapaluan daw din sila kapag ganun yung ginagawa ng 10 years old niya na kapatid and mga kalaro. And then, nung tinanong ko yung teacher namin, sabi niya, intindihin nyo na lang, sabi niya, kausap kasama namin yung kaklase namin na napalo din niya that time. Sabi niya kasi, sabi nung parents niya, alam nila na hindi siya normal. Kasi doon sa bahay nila, ang mga kalaro lang niya is mga 10 years old, mga elementary, which is that time senior high kami. Kaya we don't have a choice kundi intindihin na lang siya kasi nga hindi siya normal like us. Like, she needs special attention and she need a special treatment. It just in that case lang hindi nabigay ng parents niya kasi ipinipilit nga ng parents niya na normal siya, not to mention kakulangan din, kahirapan sa buhay. That's why hindi din naibigay yung special needs and special treatment na kailangan mabigay sa kanya kasi hindi nga siya normal. So in that way, nasa atin as a normal thinking people how to deal with them. Intindihin sila ng malalim, lalo as a future educator. Dapat tayo yung key observants para i-observe yung mga students natin kung normal ba, kung what are the needs, kung may special needs ba na kailangan or special treatment na kailangan ibigay sa kanila. So in that way, hindi makakaroon ng misfortune sa kanila in the near future. So next, letter C is the behavioral excesses and challenging behavior. Students with intellectual disability are more likely to exhibit behavior problems than those without. Gaya nga nung sinabi ko yung storytelling ko kanina, yung kaklase namin na intellectually disabled, iba yung behavior niya talaga at all. One time nga, nung nag-quiz kami, wala akong 1 whole. And then yung mga kaklase ko na nanghihingi sa kanya na normal makipag-communicate, hindi niya binibigyan. Ako, since na-encounter ko and na-observe ko na hindi siya ganun, normal, hindi siya like us mag-think. Nung humingi ako sa kanya ng papel, the way ako makipag-communicate doon sa 10 years old ko na kapatid, binigyan niya ako ng papel to the point na gusto pa niyang ibigay lahat sa akin ng papel niya. And then, nakipag-usap lang din sa kanya ako ng normal. Sabi ko, ibigay mo na lang sa mga kaklase natin kasi nanghihingi lang din sila. And in that way, na conclude ko na iba gumalaw yung mga tao or yung mga students that has a behavioral or intellectual disability. And by that, we're not just talking about intellectual disability. There are some disability na hindi din nakikita na as a normal people, nasa sa atin na din yun kung paano tayo mag-adjust kasi hindi nila alam yung ginagawa nila kasi nga they are intellectually disabled. And then, letter D, the positive attributes. Individuals with intellectual disabilities may display tenacity or yung katigasan ng ulo and curiosity in learning. So have good relationships with others and positively influence others, individuals around them. Going back to the classmate of mine ng grade 11 kami, may pagkamatigas siya ng ulo actually. Kasi one time, may laruan siyang dinala sa classroom and kami, since alam namin na ganun siya, nakipaglaro kami sa kanya. And then one time, dumating na yung advisor namin, first period that time, and then hindi pa niya tinatago yung laruan niya that time. And this, sinaway siya nung advisor namin, which is alam naman niya talaga na special yung intellectually disabled yung kaklase namin na yon. Sinaway lang niya. Sabi niya, itago mo na yan kasi magkaklase na tayo. Tapos, hindi niya pinakinggan. Nagpatuloy lang siya sa paglalaro. And inintindi naman ng teacher namin, even ganon, matigas ang ulo niya. Hindi lang actually yun yung instances na hindi siya sumunod sa sinabi ng teacher namin. Pero still, kami na yung umiintindi kasi nga kami yung nakakaintindi as a normal thinking people. So, they are curious actually. Hindi ko naman siya nakitaan ng curiosity by that time, pero there are some instances na nakikurious siya sa mga nakikita niya sa room. Like kapag nakakita siya ng picture or kapag may instances na may pinakita, nanood kami ng movie, ang super focus niya to the point na hindi na siya nakakausap kasi super focus niya doon sa movie na pinapanood namin. So, ayun. Those are some instances in my personal experiences naman encountering intellectually disabled people. So, next, we will proceed with the assessment of intellectual disabilities. This is how we calculate the IQ score of an individual. So, when we say IQ scores, it relates to mental age or yung MA, abbreviated as MA, or the mental capacity based on the test score. The chronological age, abbreviated as CA, or the actual birth age. The IQ score is calculated by dividing the MA or mental age by the CA or the chronological age and then multiplying the result by 100 according to Wilmshirtz and Brew 2010. So we have here an example sa nakikita nyo sa screen. We have the formula open parenthesis MA divided by CA multiplied to 100 is equals to the IQ of an individual. So we have here given a student's mental age or MA is 4 years old. And then ang kaniyang chronological age is 5 years old. And then to give an information on how we can get the MA or mental age of an individual, may test score siya actually, and the test score is pinoperform siya based on the age of an individual and may duration yun siya. And the test score may introduce ko sa inyo later on. And then the chronological age is the actual age of the individual. Halimbawa ako, my actual age is 25. So, yun yung ilalagay ko sa CA or chronological age. And then, applying the formula na naka-blue, we'll put the MA of the student, which is 4 years old, and then yung CA niya, which is 5 years old. I-divide natin siya. 4 divide 5 is equals to 0.8, and then times 100 is equals to 80. And then the student's IQ or intelligent quotient is 80. Next, ito. So this is the table that I am talking about earlier, which is yung test score on how we can get the MA or mental age of an individual. So actually marami yan siya. You can scan naman or you can stop my video so that you can see all of those tests that you can perform based on your age. So I'll give you na lang a hint. We have here the table 15.6 shows the list of assessment materials that can be used, various aspects of intellectual disability. I'm very sorry for the noise. And then here we have the adaptive behavior and supports intensity assessment measure. So we have the adaptive behavior assessment, which is 3rd edition. And then its purpose, nakalagay din yung first purpose, yung what kind of test, yung age, kung sino dapat yung mag-perform, and the testing time or the duration. And then, the purpose of the adaptive behavior assessment is provides a complete assessment of adaptive skills across lifespan. Ibig sabihin, in our whole life. So ages birth to 89 years old. Testing time is 15 to 20 minutes. We also have Adaptive Behavior Evaluation Scale, revised second edition. Its purpose is provides a measure of adaptive behaviors necessary for success in the educational and residential settings that are measured by academic skills testing. So, ang proper age or yung age na pwedeng maka-undergo ng test na ito is 4 to 18 years old. Ang testing time or testing duration is 15 to 20 minutes. And then we also have the Diagnostic Adaptive Behavior Scale. Its purpose is to provide a comprehensive standardized assessment of adaptive behavior. Ang age is 4 to 21 years old. Ang testing time is 20 to 30 minutes. We also have supports intensity scales, children's version. Ang purpose niya is measures the relative intensity of support needs of children with intellectual disability. So dito natin makikita what kind of support and what are the supports that we need to give to children that has intellectually disabled or disability. So ang ages niya, ages 5 to 16 years old. Testing time or testing duration is 30 to 60 minutes. Ayun. So, marami pa siya actually. Ito. You can stop my video naman for your reference and naka-indicate din to sa aming hard copy. So, if you are interested, anytime you can pause my video so that you can have references on this test and what kind of tests you're going to perform to determine your MA. So, in that way, you can calculate your IQ. Yan. So now, proceeding with the flow chart, sinali ko ito siya kasi napaka-importante niya. So the following flow chart can be used for identifying children with intellectual disability. So this flow chart actually is very important for us to determine if an individual is a intellectually disabled and what kind of treatment yung maibibigay natin doon sa individual or doon sa learners na intellectually disabled. Kasi nga pangunahan ko na kayo, if a children or if a learner has or diagnosed that has that are intellectually disabled, they have or they need specific treatment, specific support para mapunan yung pangangailangan nila. Hindi porket na-diagnose sila na intellectually disabled, magbasa-basa na lang tayo mag-conclude na ito yung treatment na kailangan nila, ito yung support na kailangan nila. Each individual that has intellectual disability or each individual has its own level, different level of intellectual disability. So in that way, since different level of disability ang meron sila, different kind of support and treatment din yung maibibigay natin sa kanila. So this flow chart is very helpful for us as a future educator, what kind of treatment and what kind of support we need to provide for an individual that is or that are intellectually disabled.
Starting point first is a child suspected of having a disability. It is because the initiating point. A teacher, a parent, or other professional observes characteristic of behavior suggesting a possible intellectual disability. Meaning, in a classroom setting, if a teacher observed that one of his or her class or student or children or learner has different behaviors than a normal learner. So in that way, si teacher mag-initiate ng test that specific children undergo para makita kung intellectually disabled ba yung isang bata. So this could include significant delays in developmental milestone. Example, yung speech at saka yung motor skills. So it is include difficulty learning, struggles with adaptive skills. And then example is yung self-care, yung social interaction, hindi masyado silang nakipag-interact or hindi ganoon ka-friendly, or a combination of factors like self-care at saka social interaction. So this suspicion triggers the referral process. So next is the initial screen or the referral to special education. So this box represents the formal step of referring the child to the special education team within the school. So kapag nakita yung isang bata o yung isang learner na hindi normal, na kumbaga pa yung initial finding ni teacher or initial observation ni teacher is may something sa kanya, intellectually disabled siya, that is the time na i-refer siya sa special education team within the school kung meron man. Kung wala naman, pwede namang sa labas. So the referral initiates the process of gathering information and conducting a comprehensive evaluation. So dito natatanungin yung bata ng mga ilang questions, and then conducting a comprehensive evaluation, like there are some tests na ipaperform sa bata, there are some activities na ipaperform sa isang bata. And then, kung no naman yung result ng test, ibig sabihin, the student has not met eligibility criteria. Ibig sabihin, yung hindi na-meet ng student yung eligibility criteria para ipasok or mag-further process doon sa intellectual eligibility test. So this branch indicates that the child does not meet the criteria for intellectual disability based on the initial screening or subsequent evaluation. So this does not mean that a child does not have any learning difficulties or needs support. It simply means that they don't meet the specific criteria for an intellectual disability diagnosis. Yes, hindi porket na hindi na-meet lahat ng eligibility criteria para masabing intellectually disabled yung isang bata, ibig sabihin at titigil na tayo. Like, okay, hindi naman siya intellectually disabled, sige, balik na natin siya sa classroom. Hindi siya ganon. Like, maaaring may other disability na present doon sa bata, hindi lang yung specific na intellectual disability. Like, pwedeng sa other kind of disability. So in that way, magpa-perform naman tayo ng another diagnosis test para masabi talaga, para makonclude talaga natin what kind of disability that is present to that specific children. So the flow chart suggests further investigation for other possible disability. So yung flow chart natin, nagsasuggest din ng other possible way para diagnose talaga what kind of disability present doon sa isang bata. So the reasons for ineligibility are detailed in the 3 bullet points below this box. Number 1, student has not been exposed to the curriculum for at least a year. So ito yung isa sa reason natin bakit hindi na-met nung bata yung eligibility criteria. So, ibig sabihin, this ensures that the child has had sufficient time in a standard educational setting to accurately assess their learning progress. A lack of exposure could skew the assessment results. So, number 2 is the intervention strategies have been tried and documented before a diagnosis of intellectual disability is considered. Various intervention strategies like tutoring, specialized teaching methods should have been implemented and their effectiveness documented. So this helps determine if the child's difficulties are due to a disability or other factors. So other intervention naman is pwede makakaroon ng tutoring or private tutor or personal tutor yung isang bata, or yung tinatawag nating specialized teaching method para makita talaga kung talagang intellectually disabled yung bata or kung other form of disabled yung present sa kanya, or it could be other factors or environmental factors like trauma yung bata or dumaan ng traumatic situation ng isang bata kaya nagkakaroon siya ng difficulty focusing, can also be considered. Not just internal disability but also experiences actually can also be an reason kung bakit yung bata ay hindi ganoon makafocus sa klase or may kumbaga pa may intervention or may disturbance doon sa bata. So next is data have been collected and a student. So A does not meet benchmark expectation. B has received appropriate instruction. So this emphasizes the importance of data-driven decision making. A sufficient data must be collected to show that the children or the child is not meeting expected learning outcomes despite receiving appropriate instruction. So this helps rule out the other factors contributing to child's learning challenges. Kung yes siya, students meets eligibility criteria, this branch indicates that the child may meet the criteria for intellectual disability and proceeds to a comprehensive evaluation. So, ibig sabihin, kung nag-positive siya doon sa dito pa lang sa first test na ito, magpo-proceed tayo sa another test, which is yung comprehensive evaluation. Number 1 is students' presence levels of performance. Number 2 is whether the student has a disability. Or 3, whether student needs specially designed instruction. So yung box na ito represents the core of diagnostic process. Ibig sabihin, ito yung pinaka-center. A multidisciplinary team conducts a thorough assessment to determine the child's current academic and adaptive functioning. So ibig sabihin, multidisciplinary team, maraming mga individual ang nagkakandak ng thorough investigation, deep investigation, or deep assessment sa isang bata to really diagnose if a child has a current academic and adaptive functioning, or for the child's current academic and adaptive functioning. So whether these levels indicate a disability and the type and extent of support needs. So yun yung sinasabi ko, since this is the core, ito yung magkakaroon na ng assessment or investigation to really diagnose what kind of disability yung mayroon sa bata, and then dito na din masasabi yung level of disability and what kind and what type of and what extent of support kailangan i-provide or kailangan ma-provide doon sa bata. So this evaluation involves various assessments including the IQ tests and measures of adaptive behavior. So number 4 is the evaluation results and eligibility. Proceed tayo here sa intellectual functioning. A, standardized measures of IQ, and B, academic functioning. So this assesses the child's cognitive abilities through standardized IQ tests. Pwedeng pumili yung mga magte-test doon sa test yung mga IQ test na introduce ko earlier, and then their academic performance in various subjects. So the results are crucial in determining the severity of any intellectual impairment. So IQ score is valid and meets criteria. So this checks if the IQ score obtained is valid, meaning the test was administered correctly and the results are reliable. Totoo siya. And if it falls within the range indicating an intellectual disability. So kung yes siya, the IQ score meets criteria, the flowchart proceeds to assess adaptive behavior. And then kung no naman siya, the IQ scores does not meet the criteria, the flowchart explores other possibilities such as whether the score is valid but doesn't meet the criteria, or if the composite score is invalid. So this will require consideration of part of the scores. So have academic present levels of performance been determined? So this checks if the child's academic performance has been thoroughly evaluated to determine if it aligns with their cognitive abilities. So kung yes siya, academic performance determined, the flowchart proceeds to determine eligibility based on the combined results of intellectual functioning and adaptive behavior. So kung no naman siya, academic performance not determined, the flowchart directs the evaluator to collect additional academic data. So kung dito naman tayo sa students has significant impairment in intellectual functioning. So this box indicates that the child's IQ score and academic performance show a significant deficit, meeting one criterion for intellectual disability. So student has significant impairment in adaptive behavior. This box indicates that the child's adaptive behavior skills, conceptual, practical, and social are significantly below age expectations. Mababa siya, meeting another criterion for intellectual disability. So kung dito naman siya sa developmental onset by age 18, so this confirms that the impairment began, nagsimula siya bago pa siya age of 18. So a crucial factor in diagnosing intellectual disability. So students requires especially designed instruction. So this indicates that the child needs emphasized educational support to meet their learning needs. A key element in the diagnosis and support planning for intellectual disability. Kaya nga nung sinasabi ko earlier, lagi kong sinasabi, kung na-meet niya lahat ng mga diagnosis or lahat ng criteria na nasabi, this will need further specialized education support to meet the learning needs of an individual or a specific children or learner that is diagnosed with intellectual disability. So, nasa final determination na tayo, which is eligible. Ibig sabihin, the child meets all the criteria above, yung all of the criteria that I have mentioned earlier. So they are deemed eligible for services under the category of intellectual disability. So kung not eligible naman for intellectual disability, if the child does not meet all the criteria, they are not eligible for services for intellectual disability. Kasi kung ipipilit natin, maaaring magkaroon ng mismatch. Like iba pala yung disability na present sa bata, and then ito yung binigay natin na support, magkakaroon ng mismatch. And then, if that happen, magkakaroon ng malignancy, if I'm not mistaken, or maladaptation in the near future. So, further evaluation may be necessary to consider other potential disabilities. Yun siya. Develop IEP or individualized education program to reflect free appropriate public education or FAPE in least restrictive environment or LRE for eligible students naman siya. So yun siya, consider eligibility for other disabilities. For ineligible students, further assessment may be needed to identify other potential disabilities or learning challenges. Kaya nga sinasabi ko, kung ineligible yung bata, pwedeng mag-perform ulit ng other test na nabigay ko kanina, or other test even hindi ko siya nabanggit, para ma-identify talaga, malaman what is the potential disability na present doon sa bata, or learning disability na present doon sa bata, or learning challenges na present doon sa bata.
So that's all in my report about the characteristics of learners with intellectual disability. If you have queries, please don't hesitate to ask me anytime. And I really hope that you learned something from my report, because this is actually very important knowledge or information that us as a future educator needs to learn or needs to know. So, ayun, as a future educator, to teach efficiently and effectively, we need to teach from the heart. Thank you.